Hey to all the spooks out there. Welcome back to another episode of Spine Chilling Chats, where every Wednesday we dig up the darkest corners of true crime, history, folklore, and the supernatural. I'm Ange.
And I'm Amanda.
If you're here for part 2 of our deep dive into the horrifying case of Randy Kraft, you already know this is not an easy story to hear. Last time we uncovered the shocking details of his crimes, his infamous scorecard, and the unimaginable suffering he left in his wake. We know this case is a lot. It's one of the most disturbing we've covered. So before we dive back in, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and maybe grab an emotional support stuffy. In part 2 of this case, we'll be covering, unfortunately, more murders, Randy's arrest finally, the trial, and the lingering mysteries that still haunt investigators today. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, please go back and listen because this story is one you need to hear from the beginning. But if you're ready to keep going, let's get to it. And you guys might notice a change of color. It's been raining a lot and my basement's a little soggy, so we're up in my bedroom. So we had to recreate our little studio up here. So that's why it's a different color. It's not permanent, but enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, it's still another bright color.
Yeah, we like color here. So when we left off last week, we had just killed, not we.
I was going to say, we didn't kill anybody. I don't know what you did last week.
Well, it was a very busy week.
But I didn't kill anybody.
Last week, Randy had just killed 23-year-old Keith Arthur Klingbeil, who was actually found still alive on the side of Interstate 5 after being forced to ingest a large dose of acetaminophen and alcohol and having his nipples seared with a car cigarette lighter before being strangled with his own shoelace and unfortunately passing away shortly after being transported to a local hospital. So, continuing from there, on September 29th, just 2 months after the murder of Keith Klingbeil, the body of 20-year-old Richard Anthony Crosby was discovered 200 yards north of Highway 71 in San Bernardino. Richard had disappeared just a day prior while hitchhiking home from a theater in Torrance. He had been suffocated and his left nipple had been mutilated with an automobile cigarette lighter. Again.
I'm glad they don't have those in cars anymore.
They're a safety issue.
Like, they still have the holes.
Yeah, but because I know as a kid, I would play with them. How dangerous.
Yeah.
Kids probably sticking their finger and getting burned.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Not smart.
No.
Randy's last known murder for the 1978 year would be a 21-year-old truck driver from Long Beach named Michael Joseph Inderbreton. Michael's body was found on November 18th, 1978, along an on-ramp to the I-605. His body had been violated with a foreign object, burned with a cigarette lighter, and castrated like many others. The cause of death was listed as suffocation. We are not aware of another murder by Randy until June 16th, 1979. What?
That's Ty's birthday.
Oh, well. Same right year, too?
Same year.
Her ex-husband. So either he killed and no one found out, or he went 7 months without scratching that particular itch. He abducted Donnie Harold Crissell, who was a 20-year-old Marine. His body was thrown from a moving vehicle on the 405 freeway. The cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning, but rope and burn marks indicated that Donnie had been bound and tortured prior to his body being discarded. A good point that investigators eventually bring up is that it would be extremely hard, if not impossible, for Randy to push these bodies out of the car while driving as fast as he had to have been for the damage that occurred to the bodies.
So they don't think he did it?
They eventually bring up the idea that he had an accomplice helping him.
Okay.
Which that completely make sense.
Well,
like,
yeah.
how are you going to have the damage like you're going 50 miles an hour while pushing a dead body? Like, that's dead weight.
Opening the door.
Yeah. There's no way. You would have to have an accomplice.
Yeah.
The incomplete, dismembered remains of 21-year-old English tourist Keith Anthony Jackson were discovered in 2 trash bags and a cardboard box behind a Union 76 gas station in Long Beach on August 29th, just 2 months after Donnie. A sock was found to have been inserted in Keith's rectum.
I forgot about that.
How could you forget? That's and you know what?
I still don't understand how they can get up there.
I kept my nieces.
Yes.
We went to a hotel so they could swim with my daughter and for spring break. And Amy was telling me that Connor listens to all of our podcasts. My little 13-year-old nephew is listening to this stuff. She says that he listens to every single one. So, hi, Connor. You shouldn't be listening to this, honey.
Hi, Connor. I miss you. But yeah, you shouldn't be listening.
Yeah, you shouldn't be listening to this. No. But it's sweet. It's sweet that
Thanks
you're
for
supporting, but maybe wait until you're a little older.
Yeah.
You don't need to be hearing about this stuff. The world is dark enough. You don't need to hurry into that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. He's got a whole new look on Miss Vance now.
Yeah. Only his head, torso, and left leg were found. The scorecard entry, believed to have referred to Keith, simply read England in 76. 2 weeks later, on September 14th, the body of Gregory Wallace Jolie was found in Lake Arrowhead. The 19-year-old had been castrated and his head and legs had been severed after his death. Which, I mean, I'm glad he was already dead, but still, ugh.
Right.
His personal possessions were later found in Randy's house. 15-year-old Jeffrey Sayre from Santa Ana was believed to have been abducted on November 24th, 1979. He was last seen at a bus stop in Westminster, returning home from a date with his girlfriend. Oh.
That's sad.
Yeah, he was just 15, so it was probably like
not a first date.
Yeah,
but
probably like they went to a movies and maybe
had to get a ride and everything. Oh,
well, he obviously had to take a bus. That particular bus stop just so happened to be near Randy's parents' home too. The entry Westminster date on his scorecard is believed to be about Jeffrey Sayre, although his body would never be found.
Oh, no.
Call it a gut feeling or mother's intuition, but Jeffrey's mother knew after the first day that her son was dead. At first, law enforcement thought he may have been a victim of William Bonin, the freeway killer.
I was going to ask who that was.
Who was not in prison then, but Bonin confessed to all of his murders, officials believe, and Jeffrey wasn't one of them. Jeffrey's mother and stepfather were told by the sheriff's department about the scorecard and that they believed the Westminster date entry represented their son. Mrs. Sayre said, and we believe it too. How heartbreaking. And to never find his body.
To have closure or anything like that. That's really sad.
That's rough. Randy traveled north to Oregon for a business trip in the summer of 1980. He stayed in a town that was close to Portland before he headed back to California in August. It's believed that he killed 2 more men, both of whom were listed on his scorecard with cryptic references, including the word Portland. One of the victims, 17-year-old Michael Sean O'Fallon, was killed on July 17th. He had been on a hitchhiking trip alone, traveling across the U.S. and Canada before he planned to start college.
Again, don't take ride from strangers.
I know, and
don't hitchhike.
He must have been advanced if he's 17 and preparing for college.
Yeah.
Like he's on a trip before he starts college. So he graduated high school early. So That's even, I'm not saying that a smart person's,
Not as dumb as other people.
well, that they're worth more than.
Oh, yeah. Because they're just as dumb as other people, too.
That's sad.
Don't take rides from strangers.
I don't think it's so much a problem nowadays. I think everybody's, well, I guess you've got freaking Uber.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
I don't like that.
Didn't they have an Uber killer?
Yeah. He went on a shooting rampage.
Yeah, like
not even too long ago.
I'm sure it's longer than
like
you
2019. 2019 or so.
I don't know. Not even longer than that. The time affects us differently as we get older. Things that seem like it was just a year ago, I find are like almost a decade.
It was in Michigan too. Kalamazoo, 2019.
Well, okay. Look at you.
Yep.
Knowing your facts.
I know, right?
His nude, strangled body was found to have been hogtied, partially dismembered, before being discarded 10 miles south of Salem, Oregon. He had consumed Valium and alcohol prior to his death. He was listed as Portland, Denver on the scorecard, and his camera, which was inscribed with his mother's initials, was later found in Randy's garage. The next day, it's believed that Randy killed a man between the ages of 35 and 45 years old. His body was found beside a freeway in the city of Woodburn. He had ingested a toxic level of Valium and Tylenol before he was strangled to death with a ligature. Portland Elk was written on Randy's scorecard. So I guess they didn't know who that. He must have been a John Doe because they didn't say
his name, but they said he was found along the freeway. No wonder they think it's the freeway killer.
Well, yeah, because there was the three of them that were all dumping bodies during the same time in that same area. It was Bonin, it was Patrick Kearney, and Randy Kraft. They were all hitting that same area and
active at the same time.
Yeah, and leave them all the same way. It's just their MOs were a little different with how they were actually doing their killing.
How they were killing, yeah.
That's the only way they were able to decipher whose was whose. And Bonin, he confessed to who
and you know, you gotta believe him when he says, "I only killed these ones," because why would you confess to any of them?
Yeah,
I'm not going to confess to the ones I didn't do, but I'm confessing to the ones I did do because why would I take credit for somebody else? And as a serial killer, you're doing what you're doing because you like it, so you're proud of your work. And if your work gets taken by somebody else, that's kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah,
so why would you take credit for somebody else's? Yeah, so he's like, no, this is who I killed. Yeah, so
that's mine.
I didn't kill them.
Randy took a Polaroid picture of 19-year-old Marine Robert Wyatt Loggins sitting on Randy's couch in his Long Beach house in August of 1980 after returning from his Oregon trip. On September 3rd, Robert's bound body was found discarded in a trash bag close to the El Toro Marine Air Base. He had last been seen alive by two fellow Marines close to the Pacific Coast Highway on August 23rd. Photographs and the negatives subsequently found in Randy's possession show Robert in the living room at Randy's house, slumped fully clothed on his sofa. He also appeared intoxicated and in various nude pornographic positions in others. In every picture, Robert's eyes were closed, and it's unknown if he was already dead when they were taken. On the 10th of April in 1981, Michael Cluck's body was found beside the Interstate 5 freeway close to Goshen, Oregon. The 17-year-old had been abducted while hitchhiking from Kent, Washington to Bakersfield, California the day prior to his body being discovered. His head suffered 31 blunt force blows, destroying the back of his skull, ultimately causing his death. I would imagine so. 31, like
I bet there was nothing left.
Yeah, it'd just be mush.
Ugh.
He had been sodomized and beaten savagely. It's thought that Portland blood, due to the extensive blood and debris found at the murder scene, referred to Michael. At the time of his murder, Randy had once again been sent on an assignment to Oregon by his employers. Also, on the day that Michael's body was discovered, Randy had taken a trip to the Lane County Hospital to receive treatment for a bruised foot. So maybe he was kicking too.
Maybe. But why? A bruised foot. Like, dude, you fucking kill people. Like,
suck it up.
Right.
You're putting them through all that pain. Suck it up.
A bruised foot.
On August 20th, 1981, the partially nude body of 17-year-old sex worker Christopher Allen Williams was found in the San Bernardino Mountains. Christopher had ingested both phenobarbital and benzodiazepine. He was found with tissue paper lodged deep inside his nostrils, causing him to choke to death on his own mucus. Randy and Jeff Selig's relationship started having problems by early 1982. They were frequently fighting and had times of temporary separation. They didn't want to just give up on their relationship and started attending weekly counseling sessions together in Huntington Beach. I'm glad that they're working through it.
Right. Because
it's so like mind-boggling when they have like such separation of personalities.
Yeah.
Like he's hiding this whole life from his partner.
And he has no idea.
Yeah. Like they're going to counseling because they're having issues.
It's because he's a serial killer.
Because he's fucking crazy. He's murdering people. He
has a whole nother life.
How do you not notice that about your partner?
Yeah, I know. Like, where are they going? What are they doing? What, like just anything.
Like, how would you not be curious? Hey, where do you keep going at night?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Robbie never leaves, like, if he leaves anywhere is to work.
Yeah.
If he's not at work, he's with me.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
How do you
not know?
It's just crazy. Really crazy.
Yep. Mike's in Florida, and I know where he's at exactly, and he knows where I'm at. Like, yeah, Mike's in Florida.
Why didn't he take you with him?
He went to go look at a lowrider.
You can't go with him?
He took one of his friends with him to go look at this lowrider, like a car guy. So they know what they're looking for. He only went from Friday till Monday. I didn't have time off work anyway. And my dad's in the hospital. So, and he can't go to the hospital because COVID and rhinovirus is running rampant.
Yeah, you don't want him to get it.
So I was like, whatever. You get a free pass. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we're in two completely different states, and we still know what each other are doing and what, like, and granted, I get it. It's in the 80s. There were no cell phones and things like that. But, like,
still,
you still talk to each other. You still communicate. How do you not know what your partner's doing?
They still have payphones.
Yeah.
Payphones, kids, are these phones that you would put coins into. Coins are these metal discs.
And it's a phone. And it's a phone, and you call other people.
Yes.
You actually called. You didn't text. You didn't FaceTime. You just called and talked on the phone.
You had to actually know people's phone numbers.
Yes, by heart, or carry around a book, because that's how you did it.
Yeah.
And was it in the 80s? Or was it not until the 90s they had beepers? Pagers.
I know it was a 90s thing. I don't know how.
I don't think it was the 80s.
They might have had it in the 80s too. I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, that's payphone.
Craziness. Coins.
Coins.
You know what you put into the gumball machines?
Yeah.
After several residents of Echo Park complained of a foul odor coming from the direction of the Hollywood Freeway on July 29th, 1982, a California transportation employee found the decaying body of 14-year-old Raymond Davis. What?
14-year-old.
Oh.
And I yawned.
Oh.
Sorry. I don't know why I'm so freaking tired. I slept most of the day and then I was busy.
It's because it's rainy. We had a big thunderstorm and it knocked down one of our, well, we had this huge dead tree.
Yeah, I wanted to see that.
And it finally fell, but it fell in the most perfect way possible. So it missed like everything. So we really lucked out because that's been causing my husband some stress. He was worried it was going to fall on somebody's house or something and we'd be like fucked.
Yeah.
Having to pay
so
for
now
something.
they get free labor because the nature took care of it
for us. Yeah. Although the woodpeckers are going to be sad because they loved that tree.
But that's why it's dead.
They were working on it.
They were
long
ready.
and hard. The 14-year-old Raymond Davis, who was from Pittsburgh, California. He had been discarded by the Rampart Boulevard off-ramp. It appeared his body had been somewhat concealed with leaves and dirt. He had last been seen alive in Echo Park on June 17th, looking for his missing dog.
Aww.
His wrists had been tied behind his back, similarly to how Michael
That's your word.
Similarly to how Michael O'Flannon 2 years prior had been. Raymond had been strangled to death with his shoelace. The scorecard read dog in what the police assumed to be referring to Raymond. Just 40 feet from Raymond, that same California transportation employee found the body of 16-year-old Robert Avila. Robert had been missing since July 21st, and his body was severely decomposed. He had been strangled to death with a length of stereo speaker wire. It again appears like he took a little break for a few months until November 1st, 1982, when he abducted and murdered Arnie McKeel Lane, a 24-year-old man from Modesto. He was last seen hitchhiking towards Orange County in search of work. His body was not found until January of 1984, though. It was discarded on a hillside close to the town of Ramona. The partially nude body of a 26-year-old named Brian Richer was pushed from a moving car along Interstate 5. He had high levels of both alcohol and Valium in his system, but ultimately the cause of death was asphyxiation. A 29-year-old carpenter named Anthony Jose Silveira was hitchhiking towards Medford on December 3rd, 1982, when he disappeared. 2 weeks later, his body was found strangled, sodomized, and violated with foreign objects before his death. Before the murders of both Brian and Anthony, Randy had gone to Oregon again for a business trip, which ended the very day Anthony was murdered. On December 4th, Randy drove from Seattle from Portland to visit some friends. While visiting his friends, he was seen wearing a military jacket inscribed with the name Silveria on it. From Seattle, he flew to Grand Rapids, Michigan for work, which Grand Rapids is about an hour and a half away from us.
Mm-hmm.
On December 7th, 2 days after arriving in Grand Rapids, he met 24-year-old Dennis Alt and his 20-year-old cousin Christopher Schuenborn in an Amway Grand Plaza hotel at a seminar. So this was for his work also. The three of them were seen talking in the hotel's reception area a little before midnight. Both Dennis and Christopher's bodies would be found in an open field close to the hotel on December 9th. They had consumed Valium and alcohol before being sodomized and murdered. They were arranged in sexually suggestive positions. Dennis had died of asphyxiation and Christopher had been strangled to death with a belt after having a ballpoint pen inserted into his urethra.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Have you ever
That gave me the chills, like, gross.
Have you ever had a catheter?
Yes.
Done that? It hurts. It
Most
hurts.
uncomfortable thing ever.
And that's, intended to go there. Like a ballpoint pen, that's thicker than a catheter. I can't even imagine. They were recorded together in Randy's scorecard under a single entry, GR2, for Grand Rapids 2. A set of keys that belonged to Christopher and Anthony Silvera's military jacket were left in the hotel room by Randy. On December 8th, Randy headed back to Portland from Michigan. Within 24 hours of returning to Oregon, he had already killed again. It feels like he's in a frenzy right now.
Yeah, like he's spiraling.
It's just bam, 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 kill after kill. A hitchhiking 19-year-old named Lance Taggs was his latest victim. He had last been seen hitchhiking from the city of Tigard to Los Angeles to visit a relative on December 8th. His body was found the next day along a rural road in Clackamas County, near where the body of Brian Witcher had been found only 2 weeks earlier. And my sister lived in Clackamas when she was married to my oldest nephew's dad. So she actually lived in Clackamas, Oregon for a little bit.
Huh.
Yeah.
How, weird.
Yeah, quite a coinkydink.
Yeah.
Lance had also consumed alcohol and Valium before being murdered. He died of suffocation from having a sock shoved in his trachea.
At least it's not up the ass.
Yeah. The investigators in Oregon discovered the passage of time between the periods of activity when the bodies were found with large doses of pharmaceuticals or alcohol in their blood system and theorized that the killer must live in another state and only killed in Oregon when they were there on business. So they're getting smart. They're catching on. After the murders of Anthony Silvera, Brian Witcher, and Lance Taggs, they notified police in sister states with the killer's MO and other details of the murders. They sought feedback from any police force that had unsolved murders with young males with similar characteristics. Southern California counties responded quickly. The pattern of killings was identical to the victims linked to the unknown killer in California. After that, the 6 Oregon murders Randy committed were then linked to the murders in California. So they're putting shit together.
Good.
His next kill was that of 21-year-old Eric Church, who was hit. What?
Eric Church. He's a country singer.
I don't do country.
I know, but he's a country singer. Well, obviously
not this one. Or not anymore. His next kill was that of 21-year-old Eric Church, who was hitchhiking on January 27th, 1983. He was hitchhiking from Orange County to Sacramento. His body was found along the I-605. He had high levels of Valium and alcohol in his system. He had been sodomized. There were rope marks on his wrists, but ultimately died of a combination of ligature strangulation and numerous blows to the side of his skull inflicted by a blunt object. 2 Buena Park men were Randy's next victims on February 12th.
It's almost when I was born.
Almost, but not quite.
Not quite.
Not the
3 days.
Year.
Yeah.
Oh, it is 83. I thought you were still in 82.
83.
So your mom was about ready to pop.
Yes, she was.
18-year-old Jeffrey Nelson and 20-year-old Roger Duvall were last seen outside their friend Bryce Wilson's house a little after midnight. The 2 men told Bryce they were going to get something to eat, and Jeffrey's naked body was then found by an off-ramp close to the Garden Grove freeway several hours after they were last seen by their friend Bryce. He had been emasculated, strangled, then thrown from a moving car. Roger's body was found down a mountainside close to Mount Baldy in San Bernardino County the next day after being bound, sodomized, and strangled with a cord of some sort. Both men had ingested alcohol and propranolol before their deaths. Both men's stomachs also contained potato skins and grapes, which had to have been eaten shortly before their murders. That's
what a
odd
combination.
Yeah, like where do you get potato skins
and grapes and be like, ooh, let me eat those together?
Yeah, like where did you go to get food? Like somebody's house? Cleaned out their fridge, leftovers?
Right, like we're not going to the store till everything's eaten type of day. That's gross. I like them separately. I wouldn't eat them together in a meal.
And what a last meal.
Yeah.
That's sad. Maybe the potato skins were slapping.
Potato skins with lots of sour cream.
Yeah, if they're the loaded potato skins.
I don't eat the bacon on them though.
Oh, but you're weird.
I'm just saying.
A few months later, on May 14th, 1983, at 1:10 in the morning, 2 California Highway Patrol officers observed a Toyota Celica driving erratically on Interstate 5. They observed the car make an illegal lane change, so obviously they're going to think the driver is under the influence. They then pull the vehicle over. The driver slowed to a halt and exited the car while discarding the contents of a beer bottle onto the ground. Officer Michael Sterling met the driver, who identified himself as none other than Randy Kraft, at the front of his patrol car. He noticed that Randy's jeans were unbuttoned. Officer Sterling had Randy perform a field sobriety test, which he failed. He then arrested Randy for driving while intoxicated. Officer Sterling's partner, Sergeant Michael Howard, approached Randy's Toyota Celica and saw a young man slumped with his eyes closed in the passenger seat, partially covered by a jacket. Several empty beer bottles and an open prescription bottle of lorazepam tablets were laying by his feet. Sergeant Howard attempted to rouse the man by shaking his arm, only to find the man's body feel cold to the touch. Upon checking for a pulse, he found the man was dead. With a ligature mark visible around his neck, Sergeant Howard removed the jacket from the victim's lap and found the victim's jeans were open and his genitalia exposed. His hands had been bound with shoelaces and his wrists had welts from struggling with the binding. The victim was later identified as Terry Lee Gambrell. He was a 25-year-old Marine who was stationed in El Toro Air Base. He had been strangled to death.
So is he now doing necrophilia type stuff? Was he doing that before?
I don't know.
Because that's what it sounds like.
It doesn't clarify.
He just keeps getting grosser and grosser.
He might have, been doing it and then...
The dude passed away.
Yeah, and then he's still drunk, so he's driving erratically. I don't know. It didn't specify. Randy was initially charged with driving under the influence of alcohol and was held in custody, and the officers conducted a thorough search of the Toyota. They found a belt in the back seat that matched the width of the bruising around Terry's neck. They also retrieved the alcohol, tranquilizers, various prescription drugs, and stimulants as evidence. The passenger seat and carpet were heavily blood-stained. However, Terry didn't have any open wounds. The upholstery was removed for forensic analysis, confirming the blood was human. Beneath the carpet, investigators found an envelope that contained more than 50 pictures of young men in pornographic poses. Many of the men in the photographs appeared to be unconscious or dead. Inside the trunk, they found a ring binder that contained a handwritten list of 61 coded notations. They had found his scorecard.
61?
61 notations. Wow. And remember, some of them was like GR2.
Oh, yeah.
So some of them were for multiples.
Oof.
They then searched Randy's home, which revealed even more incriminating evidence. They found clothes and personal possessions of the many, many young men who had been murdered over the past decade. The fibers taken from the rug matched those found on victim Scott Hughes. The couch in Randy's living room was identified as being the same couch in some of the photographs found in his car. A roll of film found contained pictures of victims Eric Church and Roger Duvall sitting in Randy's car. A ligature mark is clearly visible on Roger's neck in one of the pictures.
So I was just thinking while you were reading that, I was listening, but like I was also thinking at the same time because they found items and pictures and stuff. Nobody ever keeps the simplest things that probably wouldn't get you caught. Like if I were to do anything like this, which I wouldn't, but if I were, I would keep a t-shirt, hang it up in my closet. They make multiple t-shirts.
Well, he took the jacket, but it had his freaking name on it. Like, durr.
But like, I would just keep the t-shirts, hang them up in my closet like they're mine because they make multiple t-shirts, multiple of the same t-shirt. So like nobody would think twice. Yeah, or socks. Yeah. Nobody would think twice to think, oh, well, that belonged to so-and-so because they had one just like it. Yeah, so does Kmart, so does JCPenney, so does Hot Topic. Like, they all have it. Multiple ones. So why do serial killers not think like that? I'm not giving ideas either, guys. That's my idea, so let me take it if I ever decide to become a serial killer, which I'm not.
Which, if you do, I get an exclusive interview.
Yeah.
Like, hook me up.
Yeah. So, I'll turn it on.
But you know what? I'd probably end up in there with you because they would totally think I was in your accomplice.
Yeah. They'd be like, this bitch.
She was in on it.
She definitely knew.
Have you listened to their podcast? Connor does.
Oh, Connor.
Oh, I worry about you, kid.
Okay.
The scorecard contains 61 neatly printed terms and phrases. Many entries appear unassuming, but each is believed to refer to a specific murder victim or double murder. Several of the entries reference victims' names. For example, the entry EDM is believed to refer to the victim Edward Daniel Moore. He also would use how they were tortured or mutilated or locations where they were last seen. The entry Marine Head BP is believed to refer to victim Mark Marsh, a Marine who was found decapitated, last seen hitchhiking towards Buena Park. Other entries just refer to body dump locations. The entry Golden Sails refers to the fact that Craig Jonatas was found in the parking lot of the Golden Sails Hotel. The scorecard also suggests a minimum of 4 double murders. GR2 victims Dennis Alt and Christopher Schuenborn, last seen in Grand Rapids. 2-in-1 Beach victims Jeffrey Nelson and Roger Duvall. 2-in-1 Hitch and 2-in-1 MV to PL, neither entry of which has been linked to any double murder or disappearances, though. So they haven't figured those two out.
Oh, so they're still like...
Yeah, they don't know who those refer
cold
to.
Cases.
Mm-hmm. Or they never found the bodies, you know.
Okay.
Investigators state that 2 victims of whose murders Randy was convicted of, Eric Church and Terry Gambrell, are not listed on Randy's scorecard. However, since the list is in code, it's possible that Eric, in particular, is included on the scorecard as an entry that investigators cannot recognize as referring to him. Terry may also be included on the list, although as Randy was arrested while he attempted to dispose of the body, he may not have had time to record an entry for Terry on his scorecard yet. These possibilities indicate the scorecard list a minimum of 65 and possibly 67 victims.
Jeez. I mean, still not as much as Little, but...
Yeah, saving Little.
That's still quite a bit.
Yeah. He was a busy boy.
Yeah. And he just went on, he went on a rampage towards the end.
It was just, he was in a frenzy. Randy was formally charged with Terry Gambrell's murder on May 16, 1983. By September of the same year, over 700 witnesses had been interviewed by investigators and over 250 items of physical exhibits had been gathered, all of which pointed to Randy being responsible for the homicides of 15 victims between December 1972 and February of 1983. He was formally charged for those 15 murders, in addition to 2 counts of sodomy and 1 count of emasculation on September 8, 1983. The trial began on September 26, 1988 in Orange County with presiding judge Donald A. McCartan. Around 160 witnesses were called to testify on behalf of the prosecution, with over 1,000 exhibits of evidence introduced to the case.
That is
a ton of evidence.
Wow.
Well, I mean, when you keep all that shit, don't hold on to stuff.
No.
Don't keep pictures in your car.
Don't take pictures.
Yeah. Don't
kill people.
Don't write names in a book and keep the book in your car. Like, come on.
Jesus.
Just so you can jerk off to it later, probably. The exhibits included blood stains, hair and fiber samples found at Randy's house and in his car, fingerprints found on glass shards recovered from the Mark Howard Hall murder in January of 1976, negatives along with photographs of victims that were found in Randy's car that depicted the men either asleep, drugged, or dead, the actual belt that was used to strangle Terry Lee Gambrell, and the prescription drugs and buck knife that had been found in his vehicle. Some of the other evidence that had been introduced included his travel and work records, along with gasoline receipts, which helped to pinpoint his locations being near the sites that his victims had been abducted from or where their bodies had been dumped. They also entered all of the personal possessions of the victims that had been found in Randy's possession following his arrest. Randy's defense team primarily gave alibis or alternate suspects in their attempt to defend him. His attorneys dismissed a lot of the evidence the prosecution had entered as being circumstantial and worked to portray Randy as a smart, hardworking, upstanding member of the community. They used the other 2 serial killers, Patrick Kearney and William Bonin, who were operating and disposing at the same time and area, as an alternative explanation for the 16 murdered men, arguing that they didn't have any concrete evidence that Randy had killed any of the victims, except for the fucking dead body they caught him with in his fucking car. Mm-hmm. That's evidence right there.
Oh, what about he didn't kill him though.
What about all the pictures? What about all the stuff? All the evidence, victims' possessions at his house. How do you explain that away? Like, come on.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It took a total of 13 months for the trial to commence, proving to be the most expensive trial in Orange County history. On April 29th, 1989, each team said their closing arguments, which itself took 3 fucking days to complete.
Jesus.
Closing arguments, 3 fucking days. The prosecution listed all of the physical and circumstantial evidence once more to help shine a light on Randy's guilt. Randy's defense team argued that it was merely a circumstantial case put together by the prosecution to link all the murders together. The jury deliberated for 11 days before they finally reached their verdict. How? Why did it take that long?
Wow. It should have been like 3 hours tops.
Like, I understand that we're getting it all laid out nice and pretty for us.
And they don't.
And they don't have it. But, man, it's dead body in your car.
At least guilty on one count.
Yeah, at least that. How do you explain that away? On May 12th, 1989, Randy Kraft was found guilty of 16 counts of murder, 1 count of sodomy, and 1 count of emasculation. On August 11th, 1989, the jury rendered a verdict of death. On November 29th, 1989, Judge McCartan formally sentenced Randy Kraft to death, and the California Supreme Court upheld the sentence on August 9th, 2000. But unfortunately, his sentence has not been carried out as of yet, and he remains on death row in San Quentin State Prison. He continues to deny any responsibility for any of the murders he was either convicted of or suspected of committing.
That don't make no damn sense. Because did you just see that there's another guy in South Carolina that wants the firing squad?
Oh, he just wants to be famous too.
But those guys committed murders in 2001 and recently, and they get killed already.
Yeah,
and
this is from the 80s, and he's still living.
What is taking so long?
Don't know.
I don't know why people are on death row for so long. I get it. They're doing their appeals and stuff. But once you run out of appeals and you know that you're not going to get off, what are you waiting for?
If you want to give them life, just give them life then. But the having to sit there and just
take up our tax dollars?
Yeah.
I can kill them already.
Circumstantial and DNA evidence relating to some of the murders have caused many to suspect that Randy had an accomplice for many of the murders. It is contended that he would have had great difficulty moving around a 200-pound corpse, let alone dumping them from a moving vehicle, especially to do so without being noticed by anyone. Abrasions and debris found at some of the crime scenes where bodies had been discarded upon or alongside freeways indicated that they had been discarded from vehicles traveling at more than 50 miles per hour. And for one individual to perform this act without compromising his driving would be very difficult. Moreover, footprints in the sand close to where the body of John Lyris was found at Sunset Beach in 1975 unequivocally indicate 2 people had carried the youth's body to where it was discarded. In the case of Eric Church, semen samples found on his body were inconsistent with Randy's blood type, and while the photographs of the victims found in his car had to have been processed somewhere, no photo developer ever reported these morbid images to the police. Randy himself had no dark room expertise or dark room equipment. During his trial, members of the prosecution admitted privately that they did not charge him with several murders that they were certain he had committed because of facts relating to the cases, which indicated more than one perpetrator. Although DNA evidence found upon the body of Eric Church was incompatible with Randy, investigators had found photographs of Eric in Randy's car, and his distinctive Norelco electric razor was found in Randy's house too. The prosecution believes that possibly Randy's former boyfriend, Jeff Graves, may have assisted in several of the murders. Not the one he was going...
not the current one.
Nope, this was his first Jeff.
Okay.
Jeff had lived with Randy between 1971 and 1976, when 16 known murders attributed to Randy occurred, but he had been questioned concerning the Keith Crotwell abduction and murder in 1975 when he verified Randy had called saying his car was stuck in an embankment, helping to verify his alibi. When questioned further about the incident following Randy's arrest in 1983, Jeff Graves had informed investigators, "I'm really not going to pay for it, you know." Jeff Graves died of AIDS in July 27th, 1987.
That's sad. That really is sad. However, why couldn't Randy get AIDS and die? Why is he still on death row?
Yeah. At the time of his death, police had been preparing to question him further, But isn't that the ultimate payment there? Karma. She's real. In January 2000, journalist Dennis McDougall, the author of the 1991 book about Randy Kraft called Angel of Darkness, published an article which recounted interviews with a small-time criminal named Bob Jackson, who reportedly confessed to murdering 2 hitchhikers with Kraft, one in Wyoming in 1975 and another in Colorado in 1976. Authorities in both Colorado and Wyoming were unable to corroborate these claims, though. Bob Jackson also claimed to Dennis McDougall that Randy's scorecard included only his more memorable murders, in Jackson's opinion. Kraft's total body count stood closer to 100.
Oh.
McDougall reported these allegations to police and provided tape recordings of the interviews. Detectives interrogated Bob Jackson and eventually persuaded him to enter a mental institution. No murder charges were filed against him due to an absence of direct incriminating evidence. Randy sued Dennis McDougall and the publisher of Angel of Darkness in 1993, seeking $62 million in damages. The suit contended that the book smeared his good name, unjustly portrayed him as a sick, twisted man, and destroyed his prospect for future employment by ruining his chances of overturning his conviction on appeal.
Okay, none of that is true or happening.
Thankfully, the lawsuit was dismissed by the California Supreme Court in June 1994. But that was a good try, Randy.
Right. And what are you going to do with $62 million in prison?
Buy a whole bunch of ramen at the commissary?
Yeah.
What are you doing? By 1988, investigators had linked 43 of the 61 entries upon Kraft's scorecard to identified and nameless young men murdered in the 12 years previous to Randy's arrest, leaving 18 entries referring to 20 identified, unidentified, and or undiscovered murder victims. 3 further victims simply listed at trial as being entries unconnected to any unsolved murder: Navy White, Iowa, and Harry Carey. Or is it Harry Carey? I think it's Harry Carey. And Harry Carey have since been identified and or linked to 4 murder victims discovered in 1974 and 1975. A further victim, unidentified at trial, yet linked to Kraft as an entry, simply reading 76, due to the location of his body being behind Union 76 gas station, has since been identified as Keith Jackson, a tourist from Manchester, England, meaning he may have been the entry in Kraft's journal logged as England as opposed to 76. So they don't know which one was referring to him.
Okay.
These developments leave 15 entries referring to 17 unknown further victims upon Randy's scorecard. This is due in part to his murders having occurred in several states, with bodies being discarded in varying locations and several entries being cryptic. Another scorecard entry reading Navy White is believed by investigators to be referring to 17-year-old named James Sean Cox, an apprentice medic stationed at Mather Air Force Base, who was last seen on September 29, 1974, hitchhiking near Interstate 5, and whose body was found several weeks later in Rancho Santa Fe. James was dressed in his navy white uniform at the time of his disappearance. A further entry on the scorecard, simply reading Iowa, is believed to refer to either an 18-year-old Marine named Oral Alfred Stewart Jr., who had been born in Iowa, or a 17-year-old Cedar Rapids native named Michael Ray Schlitt. Stewart's body was found discarded close to a Long Beach condominium on November 10, 1974. He had died as a result of blunt force trauma. His body remained unidentified until March 2012. Michael Schlitt's body was discovered in Laguna Hills on September 14, 1974. He had died approximately 4 days prior to the discovery of his body, although his family had last seen him in April 1974. His cause of death was initially determined to be accidental due to alcohol and Valium intoxication, but was later reclassified as homicide. His body remained unidentified until November of 2023. Investigators note the similarity of MO in the murder and body disposal of both men to that of other victims Randy is known to have killed, especially with the Valium and alcohol. That's screaming Randy did it.
Mm-hmm.
One unknown entry upon the scorecard reads, Harry Carey. This entry may refer to the stabbing murder of 30-year-old David Michael Sant, who was found sexually assaulted and stabbed to death close to a vacant house in Long Beach on January 13, 1975. The multiple stab wounds inflicted were to his stomach, and his body was found in a kneeling position with his arms extended in front of him in a position reminiscent of the Japanese ritual suicide practice known as harakiri. So I'm glad they're still working to try to link other murders to him so those families can get their closure. Hopefully he will get more put on him, and hopefully they will carry out his death sentence soon.
Yes.
Because, man, does he deserve to not exist anymore. Sorry that was a bit long, but there was just so much to cover, and all those victims deserve to be spoken about and let everyone know what a wicked, wicked man Randy Kraft is and should be, was.
Should be,
Was. So that was a long one. That was a doozy.
Fucked up one.
Yeah.
For sure.
And yeah, I'm glad it's over.
Me too.
Yeah. If you like this episode and want to hear more like it, you can check out our website, www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com. There you'll find a link to the other episodes. You'll also find a link to our merch store where you can buy all of our cool merch.
Really cool stuff.
We've got a Bigfoot, we got aliens, we've got cryptids, we got serial killers. We got
it all.
Well,
I wouldn't say all, but we got
a lot. Yeah. So check it out. Also, you can see our bios on there and see our Halloween photo shoot. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. So check it out.
Yeah.
Also, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and if you're listening to this, you can also watch this on YouTube.
Yep.
We have video, so watch that. Watch us.
Yeah.
See why we're
so cool.
Yeah, why we're really awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
Please, if you have any cryptid sightings, any glitches in the Matrix.
That's what I was going to say. Stories, anything.
Any ghosties living with you in your house. Let us know. Tell us your stories if you want to hear about it. You can enter that on our website as well, or you can email us directly at spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. And there is no hyphen in that one.
Yep. So please give us some stories to talk about. Anything that you guys have experienced or anything you guys just want us to cover. It doesn't have to be something you experience, just something that maybe tickles your fancy. I don't know. But do that, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your grandparents, tell your parents, as long as they won't get offended with the language.
Leave us a comment. We like to hear from you guys.
Do not let your 13-year-old nephew listen to this.
I love you, Connor.
It's just not appropriate. So yeah.
Oh, kids.
Yeah.
But we're really glad you came. We hope you come back. We hope you enjoyed this. And most of all, we hope you keep it spooky. Bye, guys.
Bye.